There are moments before dawn that don't belong to the living. You can feel it if you've ever woken before Fajr, before the call to prayer rises like a thread through the darkness. That hour sits differently in your chest. The air is colder. The silence isn't empty, it listens. I never used to notice it. Until the morning something sat with me. It began with insomnia. Not the usual kind, the kind that comes from overthinking or too much tea, but something heavier. Something that pressed against my mind like a hand on glass. Every night for a week I woke at exactly the same time. 3:17 a.m. No alarm. No noise. Just... The first night I blamed stress. The second, coincidence. By the third I stopped checking the clock immediately. I didn't want to confirm what I already knew. But I always checked. And it was always 3:17 a.m. Our house is old. Not ancient, but old enough to have settled into itself, wood that creaks not from weakness but memory. It was my grandfather's house before he passed, and my parents insisted we move in after his death. "It's blessed," my mother said. "He prayed in every room." I believed her. Still do in a way. But blessings don't mean absence of other things. That week, the air inside the house began to feel different at night. Like the walls were holding their breath. Even the hallway seemed longer after midnight, stretching in a way I couldn't explain. The shadows didn't just sit, they leaned.
Watching, waiting.
The fourth night, I didn't try to go back to sleep. I sat up in bed, back against the wall, blanket pulled to my chest. The silence felt wrong, like a paused recording. I could hear my own heartbeat too clearly. That's when I noticed something else. The house was not completely silent. There was a sound, soft, rhythmic, almost like breathing. I froze. It wasn't coming from outside. Not from the street, not from the wind. It was inside the house. Close. Too close. I held my breath to listen better. The sound continued. Slow. Measured. Inhale. Exhale. At first I told myself it was me. But it wasn't matching my breathing. It was slightly off. Like someone sitting nearby, breathing at their own pace. I turned my head slowly toward the corner of my room. Nothing. Just darkness pooled against the wardrobe. I scanned the floor. Nothing. I listened again. The breathing didn't stop. "Hello?" I whispered. My voice sounded wrong, thin, swallowed by the room. The breathing paused. Just for a second. Then resumed. I didn't sleep after that. The next morning I told my mother. She frowned, but not in surprise. "Did you recite Ayat al-Kursi before sleeping?" she asked. "I think so." "You think so? Or you did?" "I did," I said, more firmly this time. She nodded slowly, then handed me a small bottle of Zamzam water. "Drink this before bed tonight, and don't forget your prayers." Her calmness should have comforted me. Instead, it made something colder settle inside my chest. Because she wasn't surprised. That night I made sure. I performed wudu carefully, recited everything I knew, Ayat al-Kursi, the 3 quls, even extra duas I hadn't said in years. I drank the Zamzam water. I sat on my bed longer than usual, listening. Nothing. No breathing. No strange silence. Just normal. I almost laughed at myself. I fell asleep and woke up. 3:17 a.m. This time I didn't move immediately. I lay there, eyes closed, pretending I was still asleep, listening, waiting. At first there was nothing. Then a shift. Not a sound. Not exact. More like the feeling of something adjusting its position. The mattress dipped, very slightly, but enough. Enough that my body noticed before my mind could deny it. Something had sat down on my bed. My chest tightened, but I forced myself not to react. Don't move. Don't open your eyes. Don't acknowledge it. The weight settled beside me. Not like a person, but present, undeniable. Then came the breathing again. Closer this time, right beside me. Inhale. Exhale. The air near my face felt colder. I could feel it. Like someone was sitting just inches away, watching me. My mind raced through every explanation. Sleep paralysis. Dreaming. Imagination. But I could move. I could feel the blanket. I could hear the distant hum of electricity.
This was real.
The breathing changed. It slowed, deepened, as if whatever it was had become aware that I was awake, and then it leaned closer. I felt it, not a touch, but a presence moving toward my face. The air shifted. The cold intensified, and then it whispered. Not words. Not at first. Just a sound. A low, dry exhale that brushed against my ear. My body reacted before I could stop it. I flinched. The breathing stopped. Silence. Complete. Absolute. And then very softly, very clearly right beside my ear, "Why did you wake up?" My eyes flew open. There was nothing there. The space beside me was empty. The mattress flat. The air still. I shot up, heart pounding so hard it hurt. I turned on the light. Nothing. But the room didn't feel empty. Not anymore. It felt occupied. That was the first time I realized something important. Something I wish I had understood sooner. It wasn't just in the house. It knew me. And it knew when I was awake. The next morning, I didn't tell my mother everything. Just that I heard something again. She studied my face longer this time. Then she said quietly, "Whatever you do, don't speak to it." I didn't tell her that I already had, or that it had answered. And I definitely didn't tell her that part of me was beginning to feel like it had been waiting for me to wake up. Because the most terrifying thought wasn't that something was in my room. It was this. It didn't come after I woke up. It came because I did. And the next night, I wasn't sure I would pretend to be asleep again. I didn't sleep the next night. Not properly. I lay on my side facing the wall, eyes half open, pretending. Waiting for 3:17 a.m. like a man waiting for a verdict he already knows. The clock ticked louder than usual. Or maybe I was just listening harder. 2:58 a.m. 3:04 a.m. 3:11 a.m. My throat felt dry. I hadn't moved in almost an hour. I didn't dare. 3:16 a.m. My heartbeat began to sync with the ticking. 1 second. Another. 3:17 a.m. The moment passed, and nothing happened. For a few seconds, I thought it was over. Whatever it was gone. A strange episode. A nightmare bleeding into reality. I almost let myself relax. Then the door creaked. Not fully. Just enough. A slow, deliberate shift of wood against wood. I felt it more than I heard it. I hadn't closed the door completely before sleeping. I always left it slightly open just a habit. But now, it was opening wider. A faint sliver of darkness stretched across the floor, growing longer as the door moved. I didn't turn. I didn't breathe. The movement stopped. Silence returned, but not the same silence. This one felt occupied. I could feel it again. That presence. But not beside me this time. At the door. Watching. You know that instinct? The one that tells you when someone is staring at you, even if you can't see them? It was that. But deeper. Sharper. Like something was pressing its attention into my skin. I counted slowly in my head. 1, 2, 3. Maybe it needed acknowledgement. Maybe it fed on fear. I reached 10. Nothing moved. Then a step. Soft. Barely there. But unmistakable. Inside my room. Another step. Closer. The floor didn't creak. That was the worst part. Our floor always creaked. But this thing didn't weigh enough. Or didn't exist in a way that touched wood properly. I felt the air shift. It was near the foot of my bed now. I squeezed my eyes shut tighter as if that could erase it. Another step. Closer. And then it stopped. Right beside the bed. The mattress dipped again. This time deeper. More certain. It sat. The breathing returned immediately. Closer than before. Inhale. Exhale. It wasn't mimicking me. It wasn't human. There was something wrong with the rhythm, too smooth, too controlled. Like it was performing the idea of breathing rather than actually needing to. I felt something else now. Something new. A smell. Faint. At first I thought it was dust. Old wood. But then it sharpened. Damp earth. Like soil after rain. Or something dug up too early. My stomach turned. The breathing shifted. Slower. And then it spoke again. This time clearer. Closer. Almost curious. You stayed awake. My entire body went rigid. It knew. Of course it knew. You're not supposed to, it continued softly. The voice wasn't loud. It didn't echo. It didn't sound like it came from a mouth. It felt like it was forming right beside my ear and inside my head at the same time. I didn't respond. My mother's words echoed in my mind. Don't speak to it. The mattress shifted slightly, as if it leaned closer. Why are you afraid? It asked. The question wasn't mocking. That's what made it worse.
It sounded genuine.
Like it didn't understand. My breathing became shallow despite my efforts. It noticed. You hear me? It said. Not a question. A statement. I clenched my jaw. Silence stretched. Then something brushed against the blanket. I flinched. I couldn't help it. The touch was light. Too light. Like fingertips that didn't fully exist. Dragging slowly across the fabric near my leg. Testing. Learning. The breathing changed again. Faster now. Not emotional interested. You moved, it whispered. The blanket dipped slightly where it touched. I couldn't take it anymore. Fast. The movement was instinct, not decision. My eyes snapped open fully, my body twisting toward the thing sitting beside me, and for a fraction of a second I saw it. Not clearly. Never clearly. But enough. A shape. Darker than the dark around it. Not solid, not empty. Something in between. It was sitting exactly where I felt it. But it wasn't there the way things are supposed to be. It flickered. Like smoke remembering a form. And where its face should have been there was depth. Not emptiness. Not shadow. But something, looking back. Something aware. Something that had been watching me long before I ever noticed it. Our eyes met. And in that instant the room dropped in temperature. My ears rang. And a pressure slammed into my chest like I had fallen from a height. The thing jerked. Not backward. Not away. Closer. Too close. Its face leaned toward mine, and then the light exploded. My room flooded with brightness as the overhead bulb flickered violently. I gasped, stumbling back against the wall. And just like that it was gone. The mattress rose. The smell vanished. The air returned to normal. Nothing. Nothing at all. I scrambled off the bed, heart racing, hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the switch. The room was empty. But I knew. I knew it hadn't left completely. Because as I stood there trying to steady my breathing, I heard it again. Not beside me. Not in the room. But from the hallway. Soft. Distant. Breathing. And then a whisper. Not to me. But about me. He can see now. I didn't sleep after that. When Fager finally came, the call to prayer sounded different. Not peaceful. Not grounding. It sounded like something breaking through the silence that had been watching all night. I prayed anyway. But for the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone while doing it. And worse, I wasn't sure if what was with me was listening to the prayer or waiting for it to end. I stopped sleeping in my room after that. Not completely, but enough that my mother noticed. You look pale, she said over breakfast, watching me more carefully than usual.
I'm fine. You're not. I didn't argue.
There was no point. Because how do you explain something like that? How do you say, something sits with me when the world is closest to Allah, and it speaks like it has a right to be there? That night, I tried something different. I slept in the living room. The couch faced the window, thin curtains letting in the faintest trace of streetlight. The house felt less oppressive out there, more open. I recited everything again, more carefully this time. Every word deliberate. Every syllable pressed out of my chest like it mattered. Because now it did.
I lay down.
Eyes open. Waiting. 2:51 a.m. 3:02 a.m. 3:13 a.m. My chest tightened as the minutes crawled. 3:16 a.m. I whispered Ayat al-Kursi again under my breath. 3:17 a.m. Nothing. I blinked. Listened. Still nothing. Relief came too quickly. Too easily. And that's when I understood something I should have realized sooner. It wasn't tied to the room. It was tied to me. The lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then steadied. The temperature dropped. Not gradually. Instantly. like stepping into cold water. And then the couch dipped, right beside my legs. My entire body went numb.
No.
I whispered before I could stop myself.
Silence followed.
Then a slow inhale, closer than ever before. You moved, it said softly. The same voice, but different now. Not curious, not anymore. There was something else inside it, something sharper, awareness. I squeezed my eyes shut, gripping the edge of the couch so tightly my fingers hurt. I told you not to, it continued. My heart slammed against my ribs. It leaned closer. I felt the cold pressing into my face.
Why did you leave the room? It asked.
The question sounded wrong. Not angry, not confused, offended.
I didn't answer.
The silence stretched. Longer than before.
Heavier.
Then the pressure on the couch increased. It shifted, moved closer. The cushion sank deeper beside me. And then something pressed against my leg. This time it wasn't light. It was weight. I gasped, my body jerking involuntarily. You can feel me now, it whispered. My breath hitched. This wasn't like before. Before, it had been distant. Testing. Now it was certain. I felt something slide slowly along my leg. Upward. Not fingers. Not exact, but something shaped like them. Too long. Too thin. Too deliberate. I choked on my breath. Don't, I managed to whisper. The moment the word left my mouth, everything stopped. The air froze. The movement ceased. Silence. Then very quietly you spoke to me. My blood ran cold. I had broken the only rule. My mother's warning echoed in my mind like a distant scream. Don't speak to it. The thing shifted, and for the first time it sounded good, it said. The words sank into me like something heavy. You hear? Its voice was closer now. Inside the space of my thoughts. You answer me. The pressure on my leg increased. You are not ignoring me anymore. My chest tightened. I wasn't.
I started.
And stopped. Too late. A low sound escaped it. Not laughter, but something close. You are learning, it said. The room darkened. Not because the lights went out, but because something was pulling the light inward. Toward it. I opened my eyes. And this time it didn't disappear. It was there. Sitting beside me. Clearer than before. Still not fully solid. Still wrong. But visible. Its shape twisted subtly, like smoke caught in a shape it wasn't meant to hold. Its head tilted. And where its face should have been, that depth. That impossible watching depth. It leaned closer. You see me now, it whispered. I couldn't move. Not because I was paralyzed, but because something inside me refused to. Fear had rooted itself too deep. Its hand lifted, hovered in front of my face. And then it touched me. Cold. Not just cold. Empty. Like something that shouldn't have substance forcing itself into one. I gasped, jerking back, but it followed. Its fingers pressed against my cheek. You are awake at the right time, it murmured. My ears rang. My vision blurred.
What?
I whispered. Silence. Then a shift. The air grew heavier. And for the first time its voice changed completely. Gone was the curiosity. Gone was the softness. What replaced it was something that did not belong to this world. I was here, it said slowly. Before you began noticing, its grip tightened. Before your grandfather prayed in this house, my breath caught. Before your name was spoken, the room seemed to shrink. I sit, it continued, where the waking meet the unseen. My heart pounded so violently I thought it would tear through my chest. And you, it whispered, keep waking up. A sound broke through the tension. The faint, distant call of Fagr. The Aten. It echoed through the darkness like a blade cutting through something thick. The entity froze. Completely. Its grip loosened. The air shifted. And for the first time it sounded uncertain. The call grew louder. Click. Alive. The thing recoiled slightly. Not in fear, but in resistance. You should not be awake for this, it said, its voice strained. The Aten continued, each word filling the space the thing had occupied. And then for a moment I saw it clearly. Not just its shape, but what was inside it. Not a body, not a face, but layers. Endless, shifting layers of something watching, listening, waiting, and all of it focused on me. You are not supposed to see both, it said. The last word stretched unnaturally. The Adhan reached its peak, and then the thing snapped back, like something pulled violently out of place. Gone. Completely. The room returned. The light, the air, the world. I collapsed forward, gasping. The call to prayer filled the silence, but it didn't feel like relief. Because I understood something now. Something worse than anything before. It hadn't been trying to scare me. It had been trying to understand me, and now it did. Later, when I told my mother everything, she didn't interrupt. She didn't question. She just listened. And when I finished, her face had gone pale. There are things, she said quietly, that come closer when you are between states. My throat felt dry.
What kind of things?
She hesitated, then said something I will never forget. The kind that sit with you, she whispered, so they don't have to be alone anymore. That night, I didn't try to sleep, because I knew. When 3:17 a.m. came again, it wouldn't just sit beside me. It would expect me.